So this is the pattern paper that I'll be using. So it's a very wide pattern paper. Now I'm just going to fold it into two like this. So it's folded into two. After that, I'm drawing my starting point. I'm drawing my starting point like so at the top of the pattern. I'm then marking 1.5 inch zipper allowance, then I'll be joining that all the way down. I don't know where my camera was focusing at this point, but yeah, I marked 1.5 inch zipper allowance, and this is me just connecting it all the way to the bottom. I'm then going to fold in my zipper allowance because I don't want it to interfere us when we are taking the rest of the measurements, or rather to confuse us. So that's why I'm going to fold this in. Now at this point, I'm just taking my vertical measurements. So the first measurement I'll be taking is my bust point. So I'll be marking my shoulder to my bust. Then I'll be joining these points with a straight line. Next to mark is my bodice length, or rather my shoulder to waist measurement. That's what I'm marking. Then I'll still connect it with a straight line. The measurement that follows is my full length, the full length of your block. So I'm working with 25. I think at this point, if you wish, you can stop at the waistline. But if it's a longer pattern like the one that will be used to create maybe a jacket or whatever, just go down to whatever length you wish. Then I'm just connecting that again with a straight line. Off to the first line that I created, I'm marking my neck width, which is 3 inches. Okay, then the next measurement I'm marking is my shoulder measurement divided by 2. So I'll be marking my point there, then I'm adding half an inch allowance, and from that point I'm coming down 1 inch to create a shoulder slant, which I'll be connecting to the wideness of the neck that I just marked earlier, like that. And my neck depth, I'm working with 3 inches for the front and 1.5 inch for the back, like that. So I'm just going to connect these points with a pencil first, then I'll go in with my mark pen. So this one that I'm connecting is my back neck, and the one that I'm now connecting is my front neck depth. Then going to my starting line, not the shoulder slant, my starting line, and I'm marking down my armhole depth. Okay, so I'm marking that the armhole depth, as I always say, is the arm size circumference divided by 2. So I've marked that at random places, and I'll be joining it with dotted line. Now this becomes my chest line. Now confirming what I have on my first line, which is 8 inches, I'm just duplicating that on my chest line, so that when I'm connecting this to the shoulder slant, I'll get a straight line like this. Okay, so this is what I have. Now I'm going to confirm the midpoint between this shoulder slant and the chest line. Then on this midpoint, I'm going in half an inch, and I'll just square that a small line, and I'll be connecting that point to the shoulder slant, to the edge of the shoulder. And at this point, I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. So I'm marking that point on my chest line, not on my bust point. I'm marking that, then I'm adding 1.5 inch seam allowance. Then I'll be connecting these points with a pencil first, then with my mark pen, in case you don't have French curves, that is. That becomes the front armhole. Now for the back armhole, I'm connecting these points, that this one, the points that I'm connecting right now. Now this one that I'm connecting right now, it will become our back armhole. Now it's time for the dart. I'm marking my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. So I'm marking that on my waistline, bust point, and on my hip line. So I've marked that, and I'll just be connecting this with a straight line all the way. I'm just joining these 3 points that I've marked. Now on my bust point, I'm coming down 1 inch. Okay, and from the hip line I'm going to go up 2 inches, and on my waistline I'm going out of this line half an inch on both sides. Then I'll just be connecting these dart legs to the top point and to the bottom point to form my dart, like so. Now we have our dart, and that is good. Now on my waistline I'm marking my waist circumference divided by 4 plus 1 inch that the dart will be taking in, plus 1.5 inch seam allowance. On my hip line I'm marking my hip circumference divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch zipper allowance. Then I'm just joining the outer points all the way from the bust point to the waistline to the hip line. Perfect. Next I'm adding half an inch allowance to the shoulder on this shoulder slant, so I'm going in with half an inch all the way. Then I'll be connecting that with my ruler, and that will form my allowance on the shoulder. So yeah, I also decided to add 1 inch allowance at the bottom of my block, so I'm just adding a seam allowance of 1 inch at the bottom. This is optional though, so I'm going to connect it in dotted for me to remember that this was just but an allowance, so I can decide to get rid of it later. But yeah, that's my allowance. Also very important, just remember to write in your pattern instructions just to have everything clear. So this is the front bodice block. Now we are basically done with the front block, so we are going to work on the back pattern. Now I've just opened up the zipper allowance, and I'm going to separate this. I'm going to separate the back from the front. Then I'll cut out the zipper allowance from the front pattern because I don't need that on my front pattern. I only need that on my back pattern, so I'm just going to cut that out. I'll then put aside the front pattern, and we are going to work on the back pattern. So because I was working the front on top of this back, it has all the points that I need, so I'm just going to flesh everything out for you to see, because we don't necessarily want to go about starting all over again doing the same thing that we did on the front. So that's why I did cut this thing together, so that I can just remove the front one and I'll flesh out the back one, and it will be good. So I'm going to replace to put again the front one on top of it like this, and I'll just reconfirm my points clearly, and I'll be fleshing everything out for you to see and for you to understand better. Now I've remarked where my shoulder slant was, and right here I'm just redrawing it again for it to be more clear on your end, because I know you cannot see anything on this paper, but I'll be redoing it with my mark pen, so just look keenly. We are going to do that. Yeah, so I'm just reconfirming my nipple to nipple measurement with my tape because the points were not that clear. Then so right here I'm just recreating my dart again the same way I did on the front pattern. And now on this line I'm going out half an inch on both sides, and from the bottom, from the hip line, I'm going up 2 inches. And this time round I'm connecting this straight to the bust point. I'm not going down 1 inch like I did on the front one, so this one is being connected direct to the bust point. Let me just write in the initials for you guys to remember that was the bust point, this was the waistline, and the line chini was the hip line. So I'm just extending my waistline, and on this waistline I'm going to go in half an inch, and from this point again I'm going in half an inch. Then I'll be connecting this point to the neckline. Remember to extend the line on the remember to extend your neckline to the zipper allowance. Yeah, and also extend your waistline to the zipper allowance. Your neckline waistline and your hip line. Those are the points that you're extending. Not really your hip line, your hemline, the dotted line. Okay, so those are the points that you are connecting the 1/2 inch point to. I think you can just look at what I'm doing. I'm not good at explaining, but I'm good at showing. I'm good at showing you guys what's going on on the screen. Yeah, just look at that. So this one, I'm getting rid of it. The points that I've just created would become my back seam, my new back seam. Okay, so I'm getting rid of that seam that you just saw me shedding. Then I'm writing in my pattern instructions and the grain on which I'm supposed to be cutting this pattern. So I'm going to wrap up this video right here. Remember to like, subscribe, comment and share this video. So I'll see you on my next one, guys. Bye for now.